Thank you, Joe.
So I'm the PI of the Lunar GNSS receiver experiment. We were a team made up of NASA and Italian Space Agency partners. With our academic partner was Polino in Turin, Italy, and our industrial partner on the Aussie side was Quascom, company outside of Venice. So all the names from all those organizations are on the chart here. Next chart. So for folks who aren't in the GNSS world, just briefly on the concept of using GNSS out at the moon. So GNSS here, we're talking about GPS, Galileo, GLONASS, the like, that are providing PNT services at the Earth. But in the diagram here, we're showing that those signals actually propagate out into space beyond the Earth because the beam is a little bit wider than the Earth is wide. And they also have side lobe signals that goes directly out into space. Missions at GEO are using this operationally now. Missions like MMS have been using it at halfway to the moon. And the purpose of LuGRE was to demonstrate that we could actually use it up to lunar distance and even on the surface. Next chart, please. So why would we want to do this? NASA is embarking on a lot of activities, exploration activities at the moon, and they are developing lunar PNT services, lunar navigation services for those users to be flown around the moon itself. But those systems are not going to be up and operational fully until 2028 and beyond. And so what are we going to do from now until then? Well, we could use potentially Earth-based GNSS, which is what LuGRE is doing, as a stepping stone to those lunar PNT services, and as a foundation for those services. So once a constellation is up around the moon, providing a sort of service directly, those satellites in lunar vicinity could use Earth GNSS for their own navigation. And of course, users can use GNSS closer to the Earth and then between the two bodies as they navigate, like Firefly. Next chart, please. Okay, so the objectives of LuGRE are threefold. One, to receive GNSS signals at the moon. Number two, to demonstrate nav and time estimation using that data. And number three, to utilize that data to support development of operational lunar GNSS receivers. We tracked GPS and Galileo constellations in L1 and L5 bands. In Galileo, they call it E1 and E5A bands. We measured pseudorange, Doppler, and carrier phase. We performed navigation on board, both using trilateration and onboard Kalman filter. And then maybe most useful to the science community, we collected raw baseband IQ samples in both L1 and L5. And I'll talk about that specifically. Next chart. Okay, so this is our ConOps. I won't go into the flight because Maria handled that already. We were operational both in transit and on the surface. So of the 45 roughly days of transit, we were operational for about 16 hours of that, sort of throughout. Our antenna, as you'll see on the next chart, was mounted on the top of the lander, fixed during transit, and so the entire lander Firefly reoriented to point our antenna towards the Earth to collect the signals, and then held that for an hour and then rotated back. So that was our mode of operations in transit. After landing, during landing, we were off. After landing, we operated essentially continuously as long as we were able throughout the entire, lunar day, and then into the lunar night. All the data came down to joint operations. We processed it for 6 months after the mission, and then have public dissemination that I'll talk about. Next chart. The one coming up, you're going to see the actual hardware we flew and the mounting on the lander. So our antenna was mounted on the external face, obviously, on a gimbal platform next to NGLR and Firefly's own X-band high gain antenna. And then we had a receiver and a low-noise amplifier on the bottom of the top deck, close to where that gimbal was mounted. High gain antenna was made by Hagfar. It's a 9-element array, about half a meter square, 15 dB peak gain, and the antenna patterns are there on the right. We had a low noise amplifier by DB Microwave, and then our custom equipment was the receiver itself, manufactured by Qualcomm in Italy. We had one box mounted on the lander with two receivers inside in a cold redundant, so we could switch between the two. And we flew a VC TCXO clock, which is important to know for processing the data. The whole thing was maybe 4 kilograms in total between all three components. Next chart. Okay, these are our actual as-flown operations in orange. The top plot is showing the entire mission. We did 16 operations in transit. 11 of those were in the Earth phasing orbits at different points among all those three phasing loops at different altitudes, including up near apogee. We had one operation in the high lunar orbit after LOI-1, and then we had 4 one-hour operations in the low lunar orbit between LOI-2 and DOI. Okay, next chart. This one coming up is showing the lunar surface campaign. So we operated starting about 24 hours after touchdown. The yellow arc or the orange arc is showing our operational periods. So about 32 or so hours continuous when we first started up. We were off during the high heating period around lunar noon and turned back on after the eclipse. So we were on for 48 plus hours. Towards the end, we operated a couple hours, 2.5 hours after sunset, and we were one of the last operating payloads when the lander turned off. And at the end, it's noted there, we managed to switch to our second receiver, our backup receiver, right at the end and got about half hour of data on that receiver also. Next chart. Just some pictures of the team. So we had a very integrated team between the US and Italy. The top middle plot is showing, image is showing the ops center at NASA Goddard with a bunch of the operators there, including myself. And then to the right of that is showing the Italian operations center at Qualcomm's company. We had the Qualcomm employees there as well as NASA employees and OSI employees at that location also. Okay, next chart. The bottom left there is our integration day at Firefly. Okay, mission highlights. I pointed out our antenna, both in its fixed configuration and pointed on the top right. We set 3 major records as we flew. One was the highest use of GPS and Galileo early in the flight. Second was first use of those systems in lunar orbit, and the third was first use on the lunar surface. In total, we operated for more than 111 hours. 85% of that was on the lunar surface. We collected 106 hours of GNSS measurements and a cumulative 12 seconds of IQ sample batches. Next chart. So here I'm going to start going through some of the results. This is looking at C over a knot. The top plot is showing the L1 band. The bottom plot is showing the L5 band, and it's a mixture of GPS and Galileo constellations that or signals that we're tracking here. This is about 24 hours right after we started up on the lunar surface for the first. We acquired within just a few minutes of starting up, which was great. And you see just this amazing richness of signals that we're able to track here, up to about 35 dB hertz. A lot of those are main lobe signals, and then sort of pointed out with arrows there are some of the side lobe signals that are down near 20 to 25 dB hertz. So we were able to collect a mixture of constellation, a mixture of frequencies, and a mixture of main and side lobes. Next chart. Our second category of results is measurement quality. So we had sort of statistical noise, measurement noise that we tallied for each constellation PRN for each of our operations, and we accumulated them here on the chart. There's other correlations you could do that might be future work, but this was an initial look. It basically told us that these measurements are behaving as we would expect based on our terrestrial experience with terrestrial receivers, namely that GPS measurements are a little bit noisier than Galileo measurements. L1 is noisier than L5 for both, and then carrier phase are about 2 orders of magnitude lower noise than code measurements, and what we saw was totally in line with all of that. So these measures are behaving as we would expect them to behave. Next chart. This one has several just observations that we're noting here. The one on the top right, labeled A, is showing L1 and L5 C over a naught tracks for the same satellite, for 2 different satellites, but the signals between are the same between the 2. The top 2 arcs are L5, the bottom 2 arcs are L1, and our sort of observation here is that if you can directly acquire on L5 as a GNSS receiver in this environment, then you're going to do a lot better. Those L5 signals are higher power, higher Sierra naught, and because of that, you can pick them up earlier and track them longer than the associated L1 signals. So if you can directly acquire on those, then that's a good feature to build in. On the bottom right, labeled B, is sort of a phasing observation for Galileo. Galileo has 3 orbital planes, and so as the orbital planes kind of align with the moon, then you have this long-term 24-hour sort of roll-off of C over a naught for the satellites in that plane that's coming into alignment. So this is kind of an observation to be aware of if you're planning to track Galileo at the moon. These things are going to have sort of a 24-hour cycle of increasing and decreasing power. And then over on the bottom left, labeled C, we have some ionospheric signatures in our data that we could pick out. So these are signals, remember, that are rising and setting behind the Earth from the vantage point of the moon. And so in this particular case, the satellite was rising, and then it's transiting behind the Earth through the ionosphere, never completely setting. But we do see the signature of those signals coming through the Earth's ionosphere on their way out to the moon and now maintaining tracking throughout that. So that may be of interest to folks who are interested in ionospheric science. We're not quite sure. Next chart. Finally, our last bit of result here is looking at the IQ samples that we captured. I mentioned before 12 seconds total of this data, ranging in duration from 200 milliseconds each up to 2,000 milliseconds each. The 2,000 millisecond batches were 2 that we collected on the lunar surface. Otherwise, they're a mix of transit and surface cases. The actual data is shown in Welch platform on the top, L1 and then L5, and the various data sets are overlaid on top of each other in each plot. One of the things you can see there is we have some signal peaks that are not quite in the center in some cases. These, in our view, are associated with some potential EMI coming from somewhere else on the lander. But you can take note of this, you can remove it in post-processing, and you can acquire on the remaining parts of the signal and calculate a C over a naught. And we concluded that these signals are totally usable with basically negligible loss in C over a naught if you remove that, with the EMI present. So this is not a factor in the quality of our data. It's just something interesting to note if you're planning to process these samples. Okay, next chart. I'll conclude here with our data that we've released on Zenodo It includes everything that's sort of listed on the chart here: acquisition data, raw navigation data, and those 12 seconds of IQ samples that I mentioned, along with all the appropriate documentation. You can pair this with the Firefly data set that Clips put out on PDS, and you have a full data set that you can use to process our measurements. We also put out a publication in Journal Navigation that's linked on the bottom of this chart, and that contains all the results I just showed here, plus a lot more. And I think I have one more chart just in conclusion. So we flew this mission as a demonstration for navigation and lunar exploration as a tech demo, and we found it very successful under that purview. We also hope that the data that we collected could be useful for lunar science. We are very interested in finding out if that's true and who might be interested in it. So if that's you, or if you know somebody who might be interested, please reach out to myself or Fabio, my co-PI, and we'll be glad to connect you. All right. Thank you.